Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. And I thought, you know what? International break, things are a little bit slow. It is Scouser week. We've got them coming up on a weekend. Massive few games. You got Brighton after that. You got Forest. Who knows if Andrew will still be there. And then we've got Tottenham on the horizon. But I thought, you know what? There's been a huge debate kind of just almost encompassing the whole season when it comes to Manchester United and their lack of midfield recruitment in the summer. I was a massive advocate for signing a midfielder. I was very, very frustrated and annoyed that we didn't. And I think it's going to come back to bite us unless we even address it in January. As we've seen, there hasn't been a stand-up performer in there. And United have already been looking to 2026 for a new midfielder. And that was, we saw the Baleba interest, Wharton, Anderson. But realistically, instead of just talking about them individually, I thought we'd have a little discussion and debate about which one would you choose. Because if you ask the United fans and if you ask people throughout the Premier League, who would you choose out of the three? I think you'd get very equal distribution of choices between all three of them. Because they're very different players, got different qualities, different attributes, and it's just about which diamond out of the three are you deciding on? And I think there's been heightened jeopardy almost because Wharton and Anderson have kicked on and had a good season when Baleba seemed to be ahead of them too. And Baleba's fallen by the wayside and struggled since he's had his head turned by us. Are we to blame? Is that a concern about his mentality? Steve's already done a video talking about how disappointing Baleba has been, his struggles with his concentration, his focus, his performance, and whether that could actually be a little bit of a dampener in terms of obviously the price, but also a dampener on almost whether he's going to be able to have the mentality and like the almost like psychological aspect of performing for a big club, or whether things have almost will come a little bit too early for him because he looked a shadow of his former self. But I thought I'd get involved, I'd look at a bit of the data, I'd look at a bit of the stats, can talk about the eye test, but we know they're three quality players. It's just about which one that you go for. And if I talk about Baleba at first, I'm actually being on the side of being really concerned with how he's played this season. I've watched him even with a little bit more focus because it seemed dead on that United were going to go in for him again, whether that be January or end of the season. And it seemed like United had a little bit of tunnel vision with Carlos Baleba. And when I looked at him, he looked checked out. I don't even feel like he's a natural anchor as a six anymore. I think he's got the athletic attributes. He was a good dueler. He's strong. He's quick. He's got the power. He's got a lot of the athletic traits that United have not had in there for a very long time in a Premier League that almost demands that you have it in that area of the pitch. But when it comes to the little nuances of playing six, when it's screening the back four, positional discipline, knowing when to jump and when to stay, communication, he can leave a lot wanting when you actually watch matches. He almost like vacates the middle sometimes, exposes the likes of Lewis Dunk and Van Hecke. I know some people can actually, because people have said to me the reason why Baleba does this is because of the system he plays in, and he's usually playing with midfielders that can't duel at all. Brighton can be quite hipster with the dynamics of their team. Obviously, you've got likes of Hinchelwood that they play in there. You've got Ayari, I think Matt O'Reilly, who's gone on out on loan, where he almost has to do all of that defensive or the bulk of the defensive work in there. And I don't know whether that's almost challenging him in terms of where he should stick positionally. But quite often, sometimes the ball will get bypassed easily with line breaking passes, and he doesn't even bust the gut to get back. There's been some really concerning tape, I want to get American with it, on Baleba this year. And the talent is undoubtedly still there. But you just got to sometimes wonder about development not always being linear. And can we attribute it just to his head being turned by United? Or is his game a lot less refined than many thought it was? Because he's even gone on international duty and struggled as well. Been hooked at half-time on a couple of occasions. Herzl has come out and stated publicly that he thinks his focus has dwindled. He's not always started matches. He's very rarely completing 90s anymore for Brighton. Alarm bells are ringing, but when you look at him from his best standpoint, he's left-footed. That always adds a little bit of prestige to a player in terms of balance and angles. But he is both-footed as well. He's powerful ball carrier, can take people out of the game, technically sound, can strike the ball from distance. Is able to eat up ground in terms of defensively on transition, which has become really important. Really strong and powerful in duels. You looked at him and thought his game is pretty much complete. I know some people think he lacks a little bit of temperament on the ball in terms of pauser, the little delicacy of playing in midfield. But for the age that he is, 21, with that well-rounded of a skill set, you'd think that there's even levels for him to kick onto when he was already sensational. Because on his day, Baleba on his day is a match winner. No matter who he's playing, it could be Man City, Barcelona, PSG, he has the capability of dominating the game in midfield. And sometimes that can be what is the USP and what can be so lucrative for a player. It's not always sometimes about their floor level or what they consistently give you. It's the ceiling potential in their performance where it can be a match winner. Because you get players that could pretty much be a 6 or 7 every week and they have the value in themselves, but they don't necessarily have that ability to absolutely dominate a game. So almost Baleba has that mercurial feeling factor of him where it's like, is he either an 8 or a 3? And it sometimes depends what you like, because sometimes consistency is what pays. But you've seen it. Steve spoke about it. All of Baleba's metrics are down. His errors have gone up, and all his defensive stats have gone down. All his on-ball statistics have decreased as well. It's just been a massive slump all around. But for me, I was a big Baleba fan. I preferred him to Anderson and Wharton before the season started. But with Wharton and Anderson having their stocks go that way and Baleba's go this way, it's a fast-moving sport. It waits for no one. Things change. And you know how fickle we are as fans. But now that I move on to Adam Wharton, I'll speak about Adam Wharton because I think he has been almost seen as the golden goose. Someone that City were interested in. People think Liverpool will be in for him. I don't think Arsenal will be in there. I think Tottenham probably can't offer him enough of a big enough jump for him to go there. So who knows, he could go abroad, but he's another one. I'm going to mention him being left-footed, but he's got that almost Matic style to his play. I think he's been likened to Michael Carrick by Rio Ferdinand. He's got more that kind of tempo setting, dictated from deep type of profile to him, more so than what Baleba offers. But he's also strong in the tackles, strong in the duels as well. But when I look at the data, because sometimes data doesn't always tell the whole story, but it can tell a lot of it. There are definitely weaknesses to Wharton's game as well. And you could also talk about the fact that he's played in a system under Glasner for Crystal Palace where there's a lot more protection in terms of how pragmatic that they play and they set up in comparison to how Baleba will have to play in Brighton. For Brighton. So then you've got to take that into context as well. Because I even tweeted earlier this morning, I said that what the nuances of recruitment is, you can't just be solely basing your recruitment on performance of how they're performing for their team, because sometimes you got to see it as, do they have the traits, attributes and abilities to perform for yours in terms of what your system needs and requires and what your game model needs and requires, and not the game model and system that they're playing and excelling in themselves. You got to almost like work out the translatability. It's not an exact science, it's not going to be perfect, but Adam Wharton's a phenomenal player. Someone that a lot of people have been high on since he was playing for Blackburn at 19. He's kicked on, he's had a great season so far. And his stats and data are steady across the board. But he doesn't quite have sometimes the physical, physical traits and the physical stature that the Baleba almost possesses. But then again, that's just the football that we live in today in the Premier League. It's all about how strong, fast, and how far you can run, as much as it is about your technical ability. But as for Baleba, he's got a little bit of both. But I think the brain and almost the uniqueness of what Wharton brings, especially in today's game, with the likes of Rodri and Zubamendi and the like, that they have so much value now in today's game. Just the same way Michael Carrick probably would have been valued a lot more now. And I think Wharton has a knack for playing his best matches against the biggest teams as well. He's been excellent a couple of times against Liverpool, which always helps in my eyes. Play well against Scousers, you got a fan in me. But I'm going to look at comparative data. I spoke for ages on Baleba, but I'll look at the stats now. I've got them in front of me on between Anderson and Wharton, because I'm going to speak about Anderson. The reason why I wanted him last, because I think he's almost top the list for me in terms of who I'd go for. If I had the ability to go for both of them, because you said the title is of who would you choose, but who knows? United might have the ability to get two of them, both. Can't get all three, but would you go for one of them, or would you go for Wharton and Anderson, or would you go for Wharton or Baleba? But the most almost phenomenal stats that I've seen, or the most impressive data that I've seen, has come from Elliot Anderson, playing for a Forest team that's struggling. So when you contextualise that, he's playing in a system that's not playing well, but he's excelling himself, and he's also showing that for England. Because when you look at Baleba, who offers one thing and has some certain weaknesses, and you got Wharton that offers a certain thing and has certain weaknesses, you also have Elliot Anderson, who seems to not have any. Anderson seems to have a bit of everything. And that's more in line with how midfielders were back in the day. We weren't so much talk about 6s, 8s, 10s, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder. Midfielders used to just be able to do it all. And Elliot Anderson is a bit of a throwback for that. You know what's interesting? I mentioned earlier about Baleba and his ability to ball carry and take people out of the game with his take-ons. He's actually only averaging 0.8 per 90 in terms of take-ons completed, whereas Elliot Anderson is 1.7, which is some of the best take-on numbers for a midfielder in Europe. And you wouldn't think that. Even dual winning percentage, Anderson 61%, Wharton 58%, and Baleba at 52%. Tackles and interceptions, Baleba at 3.2, Wharton at 3.8, Anderson at 4.1. Again, tops those. For progressive passes, Wharton tops that, as you'd expect, dictated from deep, almost like the brains of the team, the brains of the midfield in that deep line position, just like Rodri is for City. 3.1 for him. Anderson, 2.8 progressive passes, only 1 progressive pass per 90 for Baleba. And then key chances created, Anderson tops that as well with 1.2. See, as I've just said, all the stats seem to be in favour of Anderson. But it's just about, what do United need? How do you get the best composition in midfield? That's what makes it a little bit difficult, especially when you look at the amount of investment and the cost of investment that all three of these players are going to be. Such a major need, so much scrutiny around the signing in that area, because United haven't addressed it since Michael Carrick. United can't afford to get it wrong. And one thing they need to make sure is that whoever they do choose out of the three of them, they need to make sure that they get the best out of them with complementary profiles around them. Because you've got Casemiro, who's waning physically. You've got Kobe Mainoo, who's struggling with his development. It's been a little bit inconsistent. And then you've got Ugarte, who's just not good enough. And then you've got Bruno Fernandes, that's not a fit in there. Everything in football is about relationships and tandems. So well and good getting one of these stars in, but you've got to make sure that they work in the environment, in the dynamics, and they have players around them that can get the best out of them. But let me know what you think. You choose Anderson, Baleba, or Wharton? Let me know.